Welcome back, everybody. Today we're diving deep into the world of martial arts cinema with a legend, Hwang Jang-lee.
A true icon, especially in Hong Kong action movies.
And we've got tons of research lined up for you. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So to get us started, what can you tell us about this guy? Who is he?
Hwang Jang-lee, he was actually born in Japan, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
In Osaka.
Interesting.
But his family went back to Korea when he was pretty young. And that's where his martial arts journey really kicks off.
Gotcha.
He starts studying Taekwondo at 14.
Wow, it's young.
Yeah. Super young. Like, most kids are worried about homework and stuff.
Right.
But by the time he was 21, get this, he's already a 7th Dan.
That's incredible. So what was he doing with all that skill? Was he competing?
Actually, he was teaching. You know, he instructed Korean soldiers and even spent time in Vietnam during the war.
Wow. I never would have pictured that. Teaching Taekwondo during a war, that's pretty intense.
Oh, yeah. Definitely adds to his mystique, right? And speaking of intense, there's this crazy legend about him.
Oh, I love a good legend.
So the story goes that he got challenged to a duel by a guy with a knife.
Oh, wow.
And the duel ended with the opponent dying. Right. It said that maybe he even used that whole thing to avoid jail time, claiming self-defense. But, you know, it's a legend, right? Who knows how much truth there is to it?
Yeah, it's like straight out of a movie. It's hard to separate fact from fiction sometimes.
Totally.
But so how does a Taekwondo master end up on the big screen? How does that happen?
Well, his first movie was in 1974, a film called The Korean Connection. Now, the interesting thing is he was actually considered for the lead role initially.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
But his looks, you know, that striking appearance and maybe even that intensity from the duel story,
Yeah.
it made him perfect for villain roles.
So he's the bad guy right from the start.
Pretty much. And, you know, it kind of became his thing, his calling card. He did a bunch of South Korean martial arts films, even a Bruce Lee exploitation flick.
Oh, really?
And then, big move, he heads to Hong Kong in 1976.
Hong Kong in the 70s, the heart of Kung Fu cinema. Was that a strategic move, do you think? Was he trying to break into that scene?
You know, it's funny how it happened. It was because of this role he played, Silver Fox in Secret Rivals, same year, 1976.
Okay.
He was acting with another great kicker, John Liu.
Oh, cool.
And the director, Ang Si-wen, he saw something special in Hwang Jang-lee, so he basically said, hey, you got to move to Hong Kong. You'll have way more opportunities there.
What a lucky break. So he moves to Hong Kong, and then bam, he's working with Jackie Chan.
Well, not immediately, but pretty close. Just 2 years later, in 78, he lands the villain roles in 2 huge Jackie Chan films, Snake and the Eagle Shadow and Drunken Master.
No way. Those are like classic Jackie Chan movies. I can't believe I never realized that was him.
Right. It was. And get this. Both films, they have similar stories, same director, Yuen Wu-ping, and even accidents on set.
Oh, no. Accidents. On a Kung Fu set? I bet that was wild.
Oh, yeah. For Snake and the Eagle's Shadow, Hwang Jang-lee actually kicked out one of Jackie Chan's teeth.
Ouch. You can actually see it in the movie.
Yeah, you can see it missing. Talk about dedication, right? They just kept rolling.
Wow. So, what about the other movie? You said they both had accidents.
Oh, yeah. Apparently he almost took Jackie Chan's eye out during Drunken Master.
Whoa. That's getting a little too real. But hey, they both survived to make more movies, so it must have been okay.
Right, exactly.
You mentioned that both films had similar stories. What were they about?
Well, both Snake and the Eagle's Shadow and Drunken Master are basically about this young guy, kind of clumsy martial artist, who learns this super unique fighting style from, like, an eccentric master. And in the end, they beat the unbeatable villain, you know?
Oh, yeah. I remember that. It's got that, like, drunken boxing style, which is where Drunken Master comes from, right?
Exactly. And it was huge for Jackie Chan. It kind of marked his shift into that comedic kung fu style that he's so famous for.
Right. So these movies were like a turning point for both of them.
Absolutely. And they actually launched someone else's career, too. Remember that eccentric master who teaches Jackie Chan in both movies?
Yeah.
Well, that's Simon Yuen-Su-tien, Yuen Wu-ping's father.
Oh, wow.
And these films, they kind of made his career, you know? He became that iconic, wise, quirky kung fu master that everyone loves. So it was a pretty big deal for a few people.
Wow, that's amazing. A perfect storm of talent coming together. So after these 2 big hits, what does Hwang Jang-lee do next? Does he stick with Jackie Chan?
He didn't team up with Jackie again, but he was definitely riding that wave of success. He did a ton of Hong Kong movies throughout the late 70s and early 80s.
So he's like a big-time villain in Hong Kong cinema now.
Yeah, for sure. And not just any villain. He brought this intensity and skill that really made him stand out.
Yeah, those kicks were insane. What other movies should we be watching besides the ones we've talked about?
Oh, well, Dance of the Drunk Mantis from '79, that's a classic.
Okay.
It's actually, a sequel to Drunken Master, and while he's still the bad guy, his character's got a bit more depth this time. You get a little peek into his motivations, you know what I mean?
I love it when they give the villains a backstory. It makes them so much more interesting.
Totally. It's like you start to understand them, even if you're still rooting for the good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Another good one is The Challenger from 1980.
Okay.
Now, that one's interesting because it pairs him up with John Liu again.
Oh, wow. From Secret Rivals.
Yep. They're rivals again, but this time they end up having to team up against like a bigger bad guy.
Oh, that's awesome. It's like the martial arts version of a buddy cop movie.
Totally. It's a great formula. Oh, and Hitman in the Hand of Buddha. That's from '81. That one's worth a watch.
So many movies to add to my list. Is he always the villain, though?
Mostly, but not always. He actually pops up in some Western martial arts films, too, like No Retreat, No Surrender 2.
Wow, so he's bridging the gap between East and West. But this is all in Hong Kong, right? What about his career in Korea?
He kept working in Hong Kong for a while, going back and forth to Korea. But in the '90s, he decided to settle back in Korea for good.
So he goes back to his roots.
Exactly. And his focus shifts a bit, too. He starts doing more business stuff, and most importantly, he gets back into Taekwondo big time.
Right. He started those martial arts organizations, didn't he?
He did. He founded the World Federation of Martial Arts and also was the head of the World Tang General Federation.
Wow.
It really shows how dedicated he was to Taekwondo,
Yeah.
his whole life. And get this, he's a 9th Dan in Taekwondo ITF now.
That's incredible. Even after all that success in movies, he goes back to his first love. It really shows you where his heart is. Did he ever go back to acting after he moved back to Korea?
He did a few more films, actually, in the U.S. and Korea, but they were more, here and there. There was this U.S. movie called Street Soldiers in '91. He was in that. With Jun Chang, another Taekwondo master who did some acting. It was just a small part, but it was cool to see him on screen again. And then he did a few, independent Korean films, even some TV.
Sounds like he never totally gave up acting, but his priorities had definitely changed.
For sure. He found a new way to share his passion,
Yeah.
Through teaching and leading those organizations. Like, he entered this whole new phase of his career, building a legacy that goes beyond the movies.
That's amazing. A true martial arts journey. We've talked a lot about his acting and his Taekwondo background, but what about his actual fighting style? How did his Taekwondo training show up in his movies?
Oh, yeah. Great question. You can totally see the Taekwondo influence in his kicking. I mean, Taekwondo is all about those powerful, fast kicks, often aimed high, like at the head and upper body. And you see that all the time with Hwang Jang-lee.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those high kicks are legendary. He seemed to be able to kick higher and faster than just about anybody. Was that common in Hong Kong films back then?
Not really, no. I mean, a lot of martial arts films had kicking, but Hwang Jang-lee's style was different. It was so fast, precise, and those kicks went sky high. It added this whole element of surprise and danger to his fight scenes.
Yeah, and probably helped make him such a scary villain. Who wants to face those kicks? It must have been pretty exciting for audiences to see this new style on screen.
Absolutely. It was fresh and visually amazing, and it helped set him apart from other martial arts actors, even the ones who also knew Taekwondo.
So his Taekwondo background gave him a real edge in Hong Kong cinema. But besides the kicks, are there other ways his training might have influenced how he came across on screen?
Well, Taekwondo also emphasizes discipline, respect, self-control, right?
Right.
And you can kind of see there in his characters, even the villains. There's a sense of honor and focus, even when they're being ruthless.
That's true. He definitely brings a certain dignity to his roles, even the bad guys. You can tell he's not just some random thug. He's a skilled, disciplined fighter.
Exactly. It's that mix of physical skill and inner strength that makes him so captivating to watch.
He really elevated the villain role. They have so much more depth and complexity than you usually see in action films. So we've covered his early life, his move to Hong Kong, his rise to fame, and even his return to his martial arts roots. What's next in our deep dive?
Well, I think it's time to talk about his legacy, right? I mean, Hwang Jang-lee's impact on martial arts films, especially in Hong Kong, you just can't deny it.
Absolutely. He kind of set a new standard for villains in those movies with these crazy skills and that intensity he brought to the screen. What would you say is the most important part of his legacy?
Ooh, that's tough. Hard to pick just one thing, but I gotta say, it's his dedication to martial arts. On screen and off, he wasn't just acting it out, he was a true master. He lived and breathed martial arts.
Yeah, that's so true. You can see that passion in his performances. And it's pretty inspiring that he kept contributing to the martial arts world even after he wasn't acting as much. Do you have a favorite Hwang Jang-lee fight scene? One that really captures his style?
Man, there are so many good ones, but if I had to pick, I think it'd be the final fight in Secret Rivals.
Ah, yeah. The movie that really launched his Hong Kong career.
Exactly. It's such a classic battle. Him and John Liu, two incredibly skilled martial artists. Their styles are so different, but it works so well in that fight. It's just beautiful to watch, all that speed and agility. And of course, those high kicks from Hwang Jang-lee, they're front and center.
I bet it was amazing to see in the theater. So as we wrap up our deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will remember about Hwang Jang-lee?
I think it's important to remember that he was more than just a villain, more than just a movie star, He was a true martial artist, dedicated his whole life to it. And he was a pioneer, brought something new to those Hong Kong films. And his influence, it's still felt today by martial artists and film fans.
Well said. Hwang Jang-lee's story, it's really a testament to hard work, dedication, and passion. And it goes beyond the movies. It shows you the power of martial arts.
Yeah, and it reminds us that even the bad guys, the villains, they can have depth. They have a story to tell.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the life and legacy of Hwang Jang-lee, the Silver Fox. We hope you learned a lot about this incredible martial artist and enjoyed the ride. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more awesome deep dives. And if you like this one, give us a like and share it with your friends. See you next time on The Deep Dive.